Today we're going to take apart a Dell Inspiron 3521 series. Gonna disassemble it and get inside the computer and see what's going on. I've got what I think is a sound problem on this particular machine. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it apart and show you exactly how to do that. So as you can see, I've already removed the battery. So there is a handful of screws here. One right up here at the top, another one here, and we'll just go through them here. So there's one there. And by the way, this is just a regular cheap magnetic screwdriver, my most favorite tool in the whole wide world. It works wonders, especially when you drop screws like me. So take the CD screw, this CD right here. I'm sorry, this screw right here holds the CD drive in, so you want to make sure you get that one. Okay. When you're removing screws on a laptop, you want to make absolutely certain that you are not only keeping up with where the screws were, but also be mindful that there are a lot of times different size screws in the case. And if you don't put the screws back exactly the way they came out, you could end up causing a lot of damage to your motherboard. So you just want to be mindful of that. Usually what I do is when I take the screws out, you'll notice I'm very carefully laying them off to the side, but the way that I'm doing it is I'm actually duplicating the pattern of the screws as they came out of the laptop, and I do that so that I can visually see at a glance, okay, that screw goes there and that screw goes there. So it helps me out, and believe me, after you've put the wrong screw in at the wrong hole in the wrong time and the motherboard doesn't want to fire up, that's a mistake you'll make one time. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of these out here. Okay. And okay, so I got the main case screws out. There's another one over here. Now, some laptops, every screw is the same size, and those are wonderful because you can just take them out and put them in a pile. And as long as you don't have any left when you're done, you're good to go. So, because I removed this screw here, which anchored the CD drive in, I can easily slide that right out. Put that in my pile of parts. Always want to check over here. Sometimes CD and DVD drives have screws right here. This one does not, okay? So I've got all the main case screws out, one on each corner. These screws here, two here, the main screw here, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and now all I have left is these two panel screws, which, by the way, if you get one of these screwdrivers, get one with a super fine tip. If that doesn't work, find one with an even smaller tip. These are like made for jewelers, and they work wonderfully, especially when you got this big fat screw head. Now, in some cases like this, the screws just, they don't come out completely. They just come out enough to where you can lift the panel. And sometimes you have to work at it a little bit, but okay. Now, I also have my other favorite tool is my flathead. So just get it under there, gently pop it out, voila. Oh, they didn't tell me that. Okay, so looks like that one's got a little bit of a break in it, which would explain a lot of the problems they're having. This particular laptop, they were telling me that they had an issue with sound. The sound was not working, and that is not a good indicator, because that tells me that A, somebody else has been inside this computer, and I don't know what that means just yet, but what I do know is that screws are not supposed to be just laying around inside. That's never good. So anyway, at this point, you've got everything you need to take it apart as far as the screws. Again, these here, 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 these two, this one, and then the 2 panel screws. And of course, if all you needed to do was swap your hard drive, you wouldn't have to do all that. Literally, all you'd have to do is take these 2 panel screws right here, take those out, and there's your hard drive. You take those screws out, replace your hard drive, and off you go. And if you have memory, you want to upgrade your memory, boom, you just take it right out, pop a couple new sticks in there, put those little 2 panel screws back on, and you're rocking and rolling. You don't have to do all this mess. It literally would take you 5 minutes to, or less than 5 minutes to do all that. But I have to take the laptop apart because I got to get inside and see if there's a broken cable or something along those lines that's causing that sound or lack of sound. Now, Dells are some of the easiest machines to take apart. You have to remove the keyboard, and once you do that, then there's a few screws underneath that anchor this tray, this top cover is what they call it. They anchor the top cover to the bottom. Once you take that top cover off, the whole thing comes right out. So it's super easy. Dell really did a good job on that. If you look closely, you'll see right here, there is a tab inside here. So there's a tab there, right here. There's one here, and there should be a 4th one right in this general area. So to get the keyboard out, all you have to do is get I use, in this case, a really small flathead screwdriver, jeweler's screwdriver. You can see that right there. And all you got to do is just kind of stick it in there a little bit, kind of work that tab loose. And sometimes you have to go at it a little rough. What you don't want to do is pop those keys out, because keys are a pain in the tail to put back in. I hate keys more than anything. I'll replace a whole keyboard just so I don't have to replace one key. Okay, there you go. So you see, I had to go through all 4 to get it, but finally, once you get one of those tabs to pop out, you can see the whole keyboard kind of lifts. You can see that here. I just put my fingers underneath here and just kind of slowly, gently pop it out. As you can see here, keyboard is out, but it's still connected through this ZIF connector right here. That's what this is called. And my flathead screwdriver works wonderfully. Just a nice little bit of upward pressure. And actually, in this case, I like to use my thumbnail. I have a little more control. So once you do that, you literally flip that little black tab up. This slides right out. Boom, your keyboard is out. Okay. Now, you still have some screws left here before we can officially get inside the computer. There's one here. There are several others. There's one here, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 top cover screws. Once we get these top cover screws off, this whole piece will lift right off. And I'll show you how to do that. So, and again, same rule as before. Be mindful of the screw sizes. If on the particular laptop that you're working on, the screw sizes are different, then you want to lay them out in such a way that tells you exactly the way that you remove them. In other words, create a pattern. Like, perfect example, this is a different one here. I thought they would all be the same. Okay, so now that I have those out, a couple other tiny things that you got to pay attention to. Usually you're going to have at least 1 or 2 connectors coming off the motherboard into this top cover here. Usually one controls this touchpad, another one may supply video, or it doesn't really matter. You're trying to get it all out. So in this case, I got this one here, and again, I'm going to be very gentle, lift that ZIF connector up just a little, and then this slides right out. And then I've got this connector here from the fan, which obviously this is a power connector that goes into the motherboard. Now, it doesn't look like I can get to it from the top, so I'm guessing once the tray is out, that's when I'll remove it. What you want to do is you want to work your way around the edges to pop it off. Just what works really well for me is old credit card. So what I found works for me is just an old credit card. It's just an old BP card from 1,000 years ago, and I don't use it anymore, except now I do. So sometimes these things will pop right off, especially if they've been worked on before. Some cases they don't. Just depends. So what I just do is I just kind of work my way around the edges. In this case, let me scoot over here. You can see I was able to find a weak spot. And once you get that in there, you can start sliding it around. And now you've got the ability to just grab onto one of the edges here. Well, it may take a little more work, but the good news is if you use plastic, and a lot of times I'll use a regular metal screwdriver. I know other computer people lose their minds when I tell them that, but the reality is if you're careful and you don't touch the motherboard, you're generally not going to hurt anything. Plastic will always be your friend. So just kind of work it around here. Well, you remember earlier when I said, pay attention to the screws? Well, I should probably take my own advice. Right there. And I bet you now, look at there. Of course, it's acting like there's still one more screw in here somewhere. Okay, folks, the mystery is revealed. Well, remember what I told you earlier about all the resistance when it fights you in one area? It's usually because there's a screw you forgot. This one was kind of hiding underneath this cable, and this was holding the top cover down. And look at there. Take that right out, and I'm gonna bet this thing just lifts right off. Now, the issue that I had, of course, was this USB port over here. Now, this is the cable that goes from the motherboard to that USB port right here. And it all looks pretty good. The cable is good and tight. So it's either, in this case, the USB port, it's either this piece right here, which you can actually buy and replace these on eBay. They're not much, maybe 15 bucks, 20 bucks. The cable is good and tight here in the motherboard. The problem is either the motherboard connection going to the USB, or this USB piece right here is damaged. And that happens a lot. I've seen that many times before. You pop a new one in there, plug it in, and boom, it works. Okay. So all I'm doing right now is just checking to make sure that everything looks good to go. This is the speaker port right here. I got nothing on the headphones when I was testing it as well. Really, I'm just kind of doing a visual, and especially since I know from that mystery screw that somebody else has been inside this thing, I just kind of want to make sure that it was put back together properly. I don't see anything out of place. I don't see anything that would certainly, indicate damage. I don't see any burn marks. I don't see anything like that. So it could just be the motherboard is, the sound on the motherboard has gone bad. And of course, you can see you've got billions of these little solder points and circuit board, circuit paths here. So just one of them can fail, and that's all it takes. If you wanted to take it further, like for example, replace the fan or anything like that, you could just remove the screws from the motherboard to the bottom cover, which are here, and looks like there's one here, one over there. There's a couple here, but you can see that they're marked like this. They've got an arrow here next to them. In this case, my conclusion is the motherboard is bad. So you could go get an exact board replacement with processor and the whole 9 yards, plug it in, and probably fix the sound problem. But by the time you've done all that and you've paid somebody to do that, you're probably looking at the cost of a new machine. So in my opinion, it makes more sense to keep this one maybe as a spare and go get a new computer and just call it a day. And that way you've always got a working computer if you need to, have something for emergency or whatever. It's just not going to have sound. But otherwise, the machine works great. So that's going to be my recommendation to the client is let's get their data off, copy it off of here, put it onto, and go get a new computer, put it onto the new computer, and just stick this in a closet or give it to a kid or a grandchild. Be a great little machine for a kid, as long as they didn't need sound. So anyway, that is the disassembly of the Inspiron 3521 series. I hope you found that useful, and if you did, I appreciate you smashing that like button and hit subscribe, and so you can get notified when we post any new videos for you. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and certainly look forward to talking to you. Thanks.